Hey there, fabulous ladies. Welcome to Bring Back Your Pink, where we celebrate the fabulousness of midlife and beyond. I am Jen B, your host, your biggest fangirl and impact-driven entrepreneur living my biggest and boldest life, so you can too. Get ready to leave behind societal expectations and embrace a life filled with laughter, joy, and endless possibilities. So stand tall, turn up the volume, and let's dive into the world of living life in full color. Together, we'll rediscover the power of being unapologetically ourselves, and we will release our inner vibrancy, and together we will bring back our pink. Let's make every moment count, girls. Hello, and welcome to Bring Back Your Pink. Today, a little bit different. I've got a dear friend and business coach, Anita Siek, here with me, and she's going to interview me because she has been on this journey with me and she's been very instrumental in this journey. And we just thought that we would do something a little bit different today. So welcome, Anita.
Oh my goodness, Jen. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Are you ready to be grilled? No, I'm just kidding.
Always ready for the curly questions, my love. Always.
This is going to be great. Well, everyone, hello. I'm so excited to be driving this, I guess, interview series kind of thing, episode with you, Jen, today. A little bit about myself before we get started. I am the founder and CEO of Wordfetti. I have had the incredible pleasure of working with Jen and also see her incredible transformation over the last year and a half, 2 years. And I'm a lover of storytelling. And the biggest reason why I was so excited when Jen was like, hey, do you want to kind of like interview me for this episode? I was like, heck to the yes. There's nothing better than to be able to peel back the curtains, go behind the curtains and get a deeper understanding of someone's story, so that's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's kickstart and let's get started. Now, some of you guys who have listened to the first 2 episodes, if you're yet to, highly recommend that you do. I know Jen has shared her intentions with a Bring Back Your Pink and also the story and the reasoning behind it, which I love. This episode is, like I said, more about the behind the scenes journey, the story of Jen. So you're like, it's a story I can probably hear again and again. And you have such a powerful story. So let's get started. To kick us off, tell me, what was Jen like, first of all, as a child?
So the Jen as a child was probably not dissimilar to the Jen that is now. Because you know what, as a child, I was still trying to fit into the box of being a lady, not being too big and too much and, be quiet like a lady. But as children, we're pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Not spontaneous. We're not scared of what others think so much as children. We just go on being ourselves and being happy. Yes. So really, up until, I'm going to actually say probably closer to my late teens, I was pretty happy. I used to have a mohawk. When I was 16, yeah. Like,
I did not know that.
And that was obviously, I was way left of center then. My mum would actually, I'd come back from the hairdressers and she'd cry. But, the thing is, at that time, I was strong enough mentally, I think, to go, you know what? I don't really care what others think. This makes me happy. But, as I got older and started working and, you get into those expectations, things changed. So Jen as a child was a pretty happy-go-lucky, positive kid that loved fun and loved enjoying life.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting? I think we all, and I love to start off this question because it's almost like when we were little humans, it is the fact that we look at this world with such wonder and so much curiosity and excitement. And, you know, there's just nothing that we're almost, I mean, you'd be afraid, but it's like you're so willing to have a go, play and test and experiment. And, you know, I resonate so much with that. Like, I think even when I think about me as a little gal, like, I was so creative. I said so much. I voiced my opinion a lot. And I think, you know, as I started to grow up myself, like, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or you shouldn't, you know, talk too loud, or you shouldn't. And then we start to then, you know, this version of us that we were, in a way, like, us being us, we were then de-shimmered. We were then told to, ooh, can you quieten down a little, like a little bit? Can you not be this? Can you not be you? Right?
You? Actually, I'm just going to digress for a little second, because I want to tell a story actually about my daughter. When she was 5, and I'd been at work and she'd been at a friend's, and the friend's mum, who was my friend, rang me that afternoon. She said, so I had an argument with Chelsea today. And I said, what? You had an argument with Chelsea? You know, because Chelsea was a very happy-go-lucky kid. And she said, yep, we had an argument over koalas. And I'm like, koalas? She said, yes. She said, I said they were a bear. Chelsea said they were marsupial. She would not back down because, well, Chelsea was right and I was not. And I said, I had to learn from a 5-year-old that a koala bear is actually a marsupial. And that's, you know, I want that for kids. Like, Chelsea was right. She knew she was right. And she just went, you know what? I know that I'm right, and I'm not going to back away from that. And I look at that now and think, I'm so glad. Like, when she came home, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like, she said, but I knew it was a marsupial, Mum. And I knew I was right. And I'm like, good on you. Not
Back yourself.
Not everyone likes that. Yeah.
Yes.
She absolutely backed herself, still does, but not everyone is like that. And not everyone likes a child that will stand up for themselves like that. And we did come into some trouble with, you know, a couple of teachers further down the track when she was outspoken. But it's interesting that back in, you know, even maybe in your generation, and definitely back in mine, you did not stand up for yourself like that and say, no, I know you as an adult are wrong.
I actually used to remember there was a moment in time like that my mum or my parents were like, you should have been a lawyer. And I mean, I was a lawyer. Yes. But she was like, you should have been a lawyer because you're so good at arguments, or you're so good at, like, you know, putting together an argument or putting together a claim. And I'm like, heck yeah, I am. Like, here to win.
I actually said to Chelsea, you sure you don't want to study law? Because I think you'd be quite good. She's like, nah, that's not me, Mum. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's one of those things where I resonate so much, where you do put your flag on the ground on something, and it's until, you know, those who love you or who you look up to kind of, you know, they don't intentionally wobble you, but they don't intentionally, like, want to make you less you, but they put on their expectations on you, where it's just like, oh, can you not, like, you can't talk like that, you can't be too loud, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. Then you're just like, oh, okay, well, of course I have to listen to you because, you know, you're my caretaker and you're my mom or you're my dad and blah, blah, blah. And then we start to, you know, shift who we are. And it's almost like we start to dial down who we are to dial up, you know, what others expect and want of us. And we're creating our life based on that. So
that's it. I say I shrank myself into the box that the expectations were of. You know, and I mean, look, I think back to my darling mum, you know, and I've said this before and I'll say it a million times. She was doing what she thought was right.
Yes.
You know, but she comes from that whole different generation where you were a lady. You know, in her generation, a lot of the wives and mothers, they didn't work. They stayed at home, you know, whereas our generation, we've always been, you know, well, I mean, let's face it, to live in Sydney, you know, you usually need a 2-income family. So, you know, women everything has changed so dramatically since then. But that's the thing, they try and project how they were brought up onto us, and it's just never going to work, because it's going to make us try and change to be who we're not. That's sad.
I agree. Yeah, it's sad. And I think it's one of the things I love the most about, I guess, what you're creating here. Jen, because I think it's really shining a spotlight on having these conversations that I think I don't think we're having enough of. No,
I don't think either.
Yep. So okay, so diving back into that, you mentioned that Jen as a child was pretty much, it sounds like we've gone almost full circle. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit more, okay? So if we were to kind of take a walk down memory lane, let's imagine your life, from little Jen to Jen now. I want you to really think about your life as almost chapters in a book.
Okay.
So kind of look at it as, I don't know, you could either look at the first 10 years and then maybe that's a chapter, and then it's like the next 20 is like another chapter. If we were to kind of look at maybe the core, those 3, 4, 5 core chapters, and if we were to sum up with one word, I love my words, I'm a wordsmith. Yeah. If we were to sum up with one word per chapter, talk us through this, like walk us down memory lane, 0 to 10, name this chapter, give me a word on it, and then tell me why, and tell the listeners then the next couple of chapters as well.
Okay, so let's do, well, we'll go in, say 0 to 10? Let's start. I would say...
Let's do it.
Innocent. I would use that word, because, life was just kind of easy, and, there's no expectations on you at that age. You can explore and feel free to explore, and feel happy, like life is just good, I grew up in the era where, as kids, we would all hang out together in the street. We'd take off in the morning and we'd come back when the sun set. There was lots of kids in the street. We had a lot of fun growing up like that. 10 to 20, let's say rebel.
Oh, okay. Tell us more.
Let's say rebel. I think that's when I started to realize some of the expectations, and I did rebel against them. I was, pretty smart. I hit year 7 in B class out of I think it went down to about, way past K. But, getting into high school, I started to sort of rebel, do stupid things. Like we all do stupid things, when we're young. Then I realized at 15, 10. It was 10 I found out about graphic design. In 15, I wanted to leave school and be a designer, but my parents actually would not allow me, because they said, you're too young for that. Like too young at 15 to leave school. So they made me stay through year 11 and 12. Dad threw in the occasionally, sure you don't want to be a secretary? I'm like, no, Dad, I'm pretty good. I know what I want. I'm going to be a graphic designer. And I mean, of course, Dad, supported me all the way through that, and, becoming a designer. But I think he just thought it might be easier. I don't know what he thought. I really don't.
It's always coming from that space, right? Like where they want you to not suffer in that way. Again, it's based on their interpretation, same with my parents, where it's just like, don't start a business because we're both business owners and it's not going to be easy.
Exactly. And I mean, I look back, back to my dear dad. He, as a young chap, he was an illustrator and he loved it. And he was the cartoons, the illustrations. But back in those days, that was not a living. You didn't do that.
Yeah.
He went on to be a carpenter and then eventually to own a business when they moved to Sydney. But that's the thing. He was convinced out of doing what I wanted to do, I guess. And I think he thought that perhaps it would be an easier route to go down the secretary thing. But no, it was not. And so, I went on to go to design school, which was amazing. I went to a TAFE called Randwick TAFE, really well thought of course. think there was something like 5,000 applicants the year I got in, and they took 75 of us. So,
wow.
it was by application.
Okay, you're freaking talented. Full stop.
I don't know how I got it. I truly don't. I was like one of the youngest.
You're freaking talented. That's why.
But yeah, I loved every minute of it. And
wow.
yeah, it was amazing. It was so much fun.
So this is still in your the 20s.
Yeah, I'm still in the 20s. I haven't made it past
the
next one. But yeah.
So it's rebel with a dash of fun.
Yeah, rebel with a dash of fun. It was fun. Like, they were fun times,
Yes.
Let's go from 20 to 30.
Yep.
Squashed.
Oh.
Squashed.
Let's tell us a bit more about this.
It was a hard one to think of, but like, that's when I got married for the first time. That's when I started to pull back on who I was, I think. My ex-husband was probably not tolerant of my big personality. He probably wanted somebody that was a little quieter than me, perhaps, in the end, maybe more pliable. And also, in amongst that time, my dad passed only a matter of months after we got married. He had cancer, and that was devastating for me because I was very, very close to Dad. And we had an apartment. We sold that to move back closer to Mum. So I guess it was, the squashing into that box that I probably, felt that I should be in. I got pregnant with Charles at 29 because, that was the things you did. I'd never wanted a child. I'm not maternal. I am so grateful that I have my daughter, and I adore the ground she walks on, but I was never one of those people that wanted to have children. So that was, again, I guess, me going into the box of what I should do as, a married couple. I should have a baby.
Yes.
Yes. I'm so glad. That's the one thing I have to say, that I am so eternally grateful that I did what was expected, and that Chels is here and alive, and I'm
freaking incredible.
I'm so lucky. I adore her, and I adore her partner Warren as well, just quietly. Jenna, their young men, 30s to 40s, broken. Okay. That's when the marriage went into great difficulty. We had times where both of us were, working in, fairly high paid industries. My ex was a financial advisor. I was in advertising. Within 2 days, his company went bust in the US, and the agency I was working for lost our major client, and neither of us had jobs. So that was that really broke us. And that actually was the beginning of the end of the marriage. Because, he did not deal well without being able to find employment. He was very specialized. It was a debacle, basically. We bought a dog grooming salon. Like, what the heck? Why would I even do something?
Wait,
what? We bought a dog grooming salon. We were quite well set up financially. We had investments. So we pulled out investments and bought a dog grooming salon. I'm like, what? I think panic. It's amazing what panic does to you.
Yes. Well, panic. I mean, first of all, I was like, a dog grooming salon. Like, anyone who knows Jen knows that. Well, I mean, Chelsea's got a doggo, so I can't say that completely. And I know you babysit the doggo, but hello, like, a dog grooming salon. And for anyone who's met Jen, well, if you haven't met Jen, like, she's more into the meow meows.
I'm the crazy cat lady, absolutely. So actually, I'm going to divide this into two parts, like the 30 to 35, and then the 45. Let's go 35 to 45, because it's hard to equate the end of a marriage with the empowerment of then building up a business to buy out your ex-husband from your family home, which is something I discussed in the last episode. But, and that happened when I was, how old was I? About 38.
Okay.
So, yeah. So when he left, I was not working. I was doing a couple of days in a real estate agency helping out. And I then tried a few things out because obviously I had my mum, Chels, and the caddies, because my mum lived with us downstairs, and the caddies to support. So I'm like, right, I've got to do something. And I don't particularly want to sell the house and move into one home with mum, because whilst we were each other's biggest supporters, also I probably would have killed her, and I did not wish to spend the rest of my life in jail. So I figured out that it would probably be easier to try and buy him out. Now, very blessed that, one, I have the ability to build a business, and two, I have a background in something that I can build a business in. And so I built up a little design business that did 12 months later allow me to buy him out of our home.
Wow. Whoa, hang on. I feel like we need to talk about this particular moment a little bit more. So, you just mentioned and shared with us 38, I think you said, was the age where we split up with our
36 when I split up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then 38 was almost like what this moment of almost restarting, would you say? Almost like
restarting. And I guess
wow.
This is the start of my obsession for helping other women, because I'm nobody special. If I can do this, surely everybody can do this. And that, of course, is why I have the Flamazing Brand Kickstarter workshop now, because my tagline is, I help you craft a brand to be a flamingo in a flock of seagulls if life is not a fairy tale that you want it to be. I want every woman to have the opportunity to have that sustainable business that will allow them to keep themselves afloat through divorce, redundancy, illness, and God forbid, death, that to be able to actually have something that is going to allow you to be financially stable, or at least financially viable. I'm not going to lie. It was hard. It was extremely hard. Finding that money each month was difficult at times. We hit the GFC, and I'm there by myself, trying to, support everybody. But, where there's a will, there's a way. And, if you just set your mind to it and go, right, this is what I'm going to do. And don't ever say you can't have a business or make a business, because, I do these things from nothing. I have businesses that I'm just going, I think that'd be a good idea. I'm going to do that like this right now. So, you want to help people. And so I don't like to hear everyone say, I can't, because you actually can.
Whether or not you are going to take that one next step, right? I think so often we're looking to get the exact roadmap to knowing exactly what's going to happen. So it gives us that certainty. I think, as humans, we want to have that feeling of knowing that that is going to work out. But the thing is, when it comes to, for example, starting a business, I'm guessing potentially a lot of the listeners may be also business owners. It is one of those things where it is, let's be honest, it's no BS, but it's not the most stable certain routes. Probably why both our parents were probably like, we don't want to do that, because it's probably the most unstable thing there is. So I guess for listeners who may be tuning in, who are just like, that sounds great, and wow, you were able to do that, especially owning your own business and being able to buy out your, ex-husband. And they're like, but how do you get into that shift, or how do you get into that mindset to really back yourself and do the thing when you're just so scared? What would you say to them?
So it's you've just got to believe in yourself. Now, it's interesting because it's actually quite interesting talking about the journey. And I look back and I think, you obviously back then, Jen, had the belief, we're talking nearly 20 years ago, you had the belief in yourself that you could do it. You've got to, and that's the thing, you've got to believe in yourself. And look, I'm going to be the first to admit that my belief has wavered along the ways. It definitely disappeared completely, at a certain time later on. But back then I'm like, right. And also he did say, you'll never be able to do that. And I'm like, well, I actually can.
You've just given me the fuel. Thank you.
Me all the motivation in the world that I am going to do this, because damn it, I want to prove you wrong.
Yes.
So, look, I'm lucky, and this is what I've always said to Chels too, create a career, one, that you love, and two, that will be able to sustain you in the tough times. Because, it's really important when you're thinking about, how you're going to spend your life, to think that life is not a fairy tale. I wish it was. We all wish it was that fairy tale, but it's not. And, you've got to have backup plans. I know this sounds a bit awful, but just having that backup plan to help you. I never thought when I was choosing design as a 15-year-old or as a 10-year-old that like it would be the thing that kept me my home when I was 38, 37, 38, whatever it was at that age. That was not in my plan because I didn't ever think that would need to happen. But, it did. And I'm eternally grateful that that's what I chose to do with my life, and to choose a career that, look, there's no denying as a graphic designer / art director, there is a use by date in agencies and what have you, because they prefer the younger and I guess the funkier. But however, with our experience as, midlife, or my experience as a midlife woman, that means that I can go and set up a business. And, my skills haven't gone anywhere. And, there's businesses out there that prefer to work with a small solo trader, that has life experience. So
I was just going to say, like, it's, if anything, you have almost like a wealth of experience in this realm. And I'm, you mentioned just very quickly before how, nowadays there is this preference for, and this is a potential controversial topic, but we're going to go there. But this, I guess, desire to hire someone who is younger,
right,
with
my pink hair, but anyway, I digress.
How did you have any experience? Were you at the receiving end of that?
I was.
I mean, in a way, it's let's just call it out. It's that discrimination of
ageism. Yep, 100%.
And how did you navigate around that?
So I was actually working in a pretty bad environment. My health was suffering. My anxiety was through the roof. I was actually seeing a cardiologist because we thought I had a heart problem. Turned out it was actually stress. Anyway, so I was looking actively for a job. I have a great folio, had a great resume. I know it was good. And I look back at it now particularly and think that was great. I would not even get an interview. I wouldn't get a phone call. I was getting nothing because I had over 20 years experience. So then I actually took that out. And then I started to get replies. So I think it was pretty darn obvious what happened. So yeah. It's controversial but ageism is a real thing. It really is. And I mean, I wouldn't have thought, in my 40s that I was over the hill, but I guess others did.
It's an interesting topic because, and you and I have had conversations around this where it's a label, right? It's in a way like when you're in your 40s and your 50s, like, you're about to retire, like you're probably like, not as like got that stamina and that hungriness and that hunger as those who may be in their 20s. And it's the same as also the label we put on millennials, right? Where it's like they're lazy, they don't really care, they don't really. But then again, I have seen, and I don't actually even know whether they're in the category of millennials, but those who are literally in their teens who are creating these who are creating like technology to like equations in their and they're like literally 17 or 18. And when I was 17 or 18, I was like party, but like, but like I'm looking at these 17, 18, 19-year-olds who are creating these epic as heck like technology and like equations where we that's what we like to do as humans, right? We love to put on labels. We love to put.
And I mean, the thing is, in every single generation, there's good and there's bad. In everything, every walk of life, in every animal, every human, everything, every country, there are good and there are bad. There are good plants, there are bad plants. You know what I mean? It's like everything in life. There are nice dogs, there are not so nice dogs. There are nice cats, there are not so nice cats. It's the same in generations, there's always going to be good and bad. And there's going to be these amazing kids that go out and do amazing things. And there's going to be the ones that don't want to do that and don't do that. It's just, I guess,
duality
life, isn't it? As well.
The duality.
I try to never label anybody, and I can't even remember what age group of millennials meant to be. I think Chels told me she's Gen Z. I don't know. And I probably got that wrong as well. I have no idea. I guess for me, I've got friends that are, 25, 32, 91. For me, you met Diane Clem on yes, like Clem's 91 and amazing.
It's freaking fabulous.
These are my friends, and I don't really care how old they are. They're people I love and that I like to hang out with and spend time, and the age is just irrelevant.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. So
100%, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just going to say, you go.
I was going to say, I think I only got to 45. We've got another 10 years to go.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so talk us through, because I think this is where our brains are sinking, because I was like, so fast forward from the moment of you buying your ex-husband out to, I guess, potentially where we are at now. What would you say that word is?
I can't even think of one word, to be honest, because it has been such a massive, from liberated to invisible to broken to what's the word I'm even looking for, to getting oh my gosh, what's the word, to epiphanies, to now being just completely liberated. And so that, like, it's hard to give one word for that, because this has been,
I was like, there's like 5 words there.
Yeah, this is been a massive, part in my life where, I was liberated. I bought him out. This was amazing. I started dating. I met my current fabulous, wonderful husband, David, who's my biggest supporter and always is lifting me up. But, that mean girl stuff, being the suggestive language that you know about, the mean girl, all that stuff that's drilled into you over the years. If you're feeling a bit weak emotionally, that all comes in. So then I was like, I'm too fat. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I'm not a nice person. I'm not this. And there's David going, yes, you're fabulous. I'm going, no, I'm not. And you know what? It's irrelevant. If you don't believe that you're okay, you are never, ever going to take that next step. I'd left the place that I was working that had made me, literally be in hospital. I was working in a corporate job again. So me being in corporate, like, I was trying to fit in, do, everything how it should be done. And, just get on with my life, because I'm like, this is the life. This is how it's going to be. And then COVID came and I was made redundant. And, that was, and I think I referred to this in the last episode. That was just a life changer for me. I was encouraged to go build a business. I was blessed that I had the knowledge to build a business. I built up an amazing business, but, I still couldn't move further. I was always getting in my own way, because, deep inside, I didn't believe I was good enough to even be having this business.
Wow.
And then I met you and you told me on that very first call, that mastermind call, about suggestive language. And that just literally blew my life apart, to be honest. It made me understand why I'm like I am. And it made me realize what I've missed out on. It made me realize that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like that.
Whoa. I always get goosebumps when you tell me this. I always get goosebumps. And I feel like we need to share with the listeners a little bit more context as to, what we're talking about in this moment, and maybe lasering in of this moment. For a little bit of context, so Jen joined my mastermind. This was probably last year, 2022.
Yeah. It was actually in March. March. I'm never going to forget March 2022.
Yes, March 2020. It was our first call.
Yeah, first call.
And I remember, a big part of what I believe in and what I teach and what I'm about is a lot of what we teach is ingrained in psychology, and a lot of what I create is ingrained in psychology. So I studied both psychology and law back in uni, did the law thing, but psychology underpins so much of what I believe and create. So what I talked about and what Jen's talking about at the moment is this element of suggestive language. And what it ultimately is we kind of briefly talked about before, but it's like, it's this element of the fact that we as humans, for us to almost comprehend an idea, we like to shortcut. And a great way for us to shortcut something is through putting a label on something. So for example, you might have, nowadays, we're seeing so much of ADHD talk, getting diagnosis with ADHD. And there's almost like this stereotype around, right, people who have ADHD, or that's just one label. And there's both pros and cons with this. There's the pros of course, now, oh, finally, now I've got some reassurance, right? Which I think so many people seek and want, and that's why they get that diagnosis. But then there's also the con, in my eyes, and my belief, that we then start to pigeonhole and put it into a category. It's like, oh, that person, she's going to be A, and she's going to be B, and she's going to be probably C, right? There's this automatic us just literally treating humans as just like, yep, in that bucket, in that bucket, in that bucket. And we expect certain behaviors from that person because they're now in that bucket of ADHD. And this is a con because in a way, we're not embracing the individuality of that person anymore. We're just putting them into that pigeonhole. And we see this also with parents where, you know, and again, I say this from a space of, you know, the learnings and studies that have gone through, and it's like there's been so many studies to show that, for example, let me share one with you, which is this element of, if you were to let's just say, growing up, you have a little child, you have a child, and that child is shy, and you're pretty much just like, oh, she's the shy one, and you tell the teacher that they are the shy one, then automatically it's a ripple effect into how that teacher treats the child, right? And it's literally a ripple effect. And that's just one example. It's simply by saying the word shy. So
and that's the example you used. And that's when my whole life just went, it exploded, because I'm like, oh my God, I was the big one. I was the too much, you know, too out there, and the loud one. And, you know, that was not desirable. So, you know, honestly, I can never forget it. Like, I can still picture it as clearly. And when you said that about the shy, I'm just like, oh my God, it's all become clear why I've been like I have over the years. Because we take that language and we build on it as well.
We do. That's it.
It's not just that
that's it.
You're shy. It's like
everything else is then built around that. Yep.
I'm not social. I'm introverted. I don't like people.
That's it.
We embellish all of that. Yep. And then we're living in our head, and we're so unhappy, but we don't have to be like that.
That's right. Yep.
It's all in our head.
100%. And that's exactly, I guess, how, just simply through that word, or just simply through the use of that word, or a word, like, oh, too much, or shy, or she's the loud one, then you automatically, the people around you, it's a ripple effect where people then treat you also differently. So then it reaffirms this belief you have in your mind that you probably, you know, you are someone who shouldn't talk much, or you are that shy person, and you shouldn't put yourself out there. And I guess, you know, that creates sometimes this narrative in our lives for the rest of our life. Until for one moment, pause and be like, well, whoa, hang on a second. Like, whose narrative am I actually living out here? So, Jen, talk to us a bit more about, I guess, this moment. And I guess you mentioned before, you've now come back to this full circle, beautiful moment where we first started the conversation with you sharing, you know, Jen as a child is someone who is, you know, just open to explore, you know, full of wonder. And I feel like we've come through to this full circle moment. How did you go from feeling, I guess, you mentioned in the last almost 5 years, potentially, like it was that feeling of, you know, you had the business, but you felt like you weren't worthy and you weren't, you know, just feeling that oomph, to now that full circle moment where, if, you know, anyone has come across you, I mean, every single time I see you, whether or not it's online or in person, your energy is just contagious. You know, how did you go from that to this now?
So it's been a journey. The redundancy was a big kick. That was like yet another label going, loser, you've lost your job. But like I know, fact is it was, accountants in Switzerland, nothing to do with me. But of course we embellish on our stuff. It was interesting in that first 12 months of working for myself and building up my business, that what I found myself doing was like, I would be launching or I'd be doing this, and I'd pull right back because, if I don't do it properly, then when I fail, there's a reason behind it. Like it was like I did not want to succeed because I don't know. It's tough looking back at that time because, I know I held myself back a lot, but then I didn't particularly want to be in the public. I mean, I didn't want to be front and center. That's why my business name was not Gen B Brands. That's my other business, just in case you didn't know, people. But that, I couldn't even allow myself to be a personal brand. And actually in that one-on-one call that we had, and you suggested, oh, what about Jen? Because I'm like, I don't love my name. It doesn't excite me. No, I'm not going to be a personal brand. And then you suggested Gen B. So, then I went just after, it was a beautiful sequence of events. Just after that first call, a first one-on-one, I went to a retreat, like a business retreat with the gorgeous Tracy from Mums with Hustle, who is also who I work with. And that opened up so much as well. And then I literally got home that Friday, jumped on a plane and flew to Palm Springs to another retreat.
Yeah. It was literally like boom, 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 boom.
It was boom, boom, boom. And I think being like so sort of, I guess it was like an immersion therapy, being surrounded by amazing women that are saying you are enough, telling them the story. And like I literally, oh my gosh, I will never forget, in the lounge room in Palm Springs, surrounded by 8 beautiful ladies, I just I was sobbing so hard I couldn't even talk. Because I realized that my whole life I'd been dictated to by this. And I kind of made a vow then that I was not going to go back to that. I was going to be who I was meant to be in the first place. I was going to unbecome everything that wasn't me, so I could be who I was meant to be. And so I came back to Sydney and went, right, this is it. This is it. I literally took the year off and just worked on myself, worked on strengthening my mindset. Because, if you don't have a strong mindset, you can't have a strong business, because you'll pull back, you'll, and if you don't believe in yourself, you won't have a strong business. So, I set challenges for myself. I make myself do them. And I choose safe places as well. So, last year, I was in Airlie Beach with Tracy, and I decided that I was going to get in a swimsuit for the first time in 15 years. But I knew that I would be surrounded with support and beautiful ladies, and Carl, but we think of Carl as one of the ladies, and that I would be surrounded with support and people that would be cheering me on, not bringing me down. And I did it. I got in the pool.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And then in Hawaii this year, I'm like, right, I want to go diving with the turtles. But to do that, I can't hide in the water. I have to get in my swimsuit and stand there in a queue in front of others. That left me feeling very uncomfortable and very vulnerable. And I looked around, I went, nobody's even looking at me. Well, hot damn. Nobody's paying attention to me at all. So, Jen, just get over yourself. Like, you've just got to get over yourself, because you are feeling so self-conscious. Nobody else is paying attention to you.
I remember this story, actually. Remember that story you told me about you being in the supermarket and these kids were, that moment. I mean, you share the story, because I think it just perfectly summarizes, I guess,
that was another
mindset.
Oh, that was another moment. I look back at that and it makes me so sad. I was just standing in Kmart. Love a good Kmart moment. And, I have a fantastic collection of bags, and I had the cutest bag with me. But anyway, these little girls were looking and they were whispering, and I thought, obviously they're saying how fat I am, how ugly I am, how something derogatory. And I said, girls, that's really not polite to, whisper and stare. And they said, we just really liked your handbag. I'm like, oh my God. My God, I've done the complete thing that I would not wish to do to kids. I was so apologetic. I bought chocolates. I apologized to their mum. And it was a real coming home for me because I was dulling their sparkle.
Yeah.
And that broke me to think that I had done that. And I'm like, you know what? Stop putting your ideas about what you think and projecting them into what other people you think that others are thinking, because they're not thinking. Our perception of ourselves is vastly different to the perception of others. And that's something we all need to remember. We as a human race, I think, are very self-conscious. Because I was in that phase where I was really, still doubting myself, but I almost have no words for how terrible that made me feel. And I felt so awful that I had squashed those little girls. And anyway, I hope I fixed it up. I told them that it was my problem. It was not their problem. Anyway, I never want to do it again. I never want to think it again.
I
Because
think that just paints, it just paints the, I guess, perspective, right?
It's not a moment I'm proud of.
Do you feel like you're the person you want to be now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with me now. I love being full of color. I love the fact that, I just beetle around and people will come up to me and say, oh, I love all your color. Go you. Like, I wish more people wore color. I'm really happy I'm brave enough to embrace the color, that I'm that now confident in who I am. And look, I'm going to be honest. I still have issues about my weight. I will always have those issues, but I battle them down. I don't look in the mirror now and think, you look disgusting. I look in the mirror and think, whoa, look at that color. That looks amazing. How fun do you look? I'm never going to be a teeny tiny person. You can't have shoulders this size and be teeny tiny, but I'm pretty happy, with who I am. I will get in a swimsuit. It's not something that makes me comfortable, but I do it. And when I'm in that water, I feel amazing. I'm like, I've done it, set the challenge, done the challenge, and that's part of what I do to make myself, to better my mindset and strengthen my mind, is to set the challenges and do the challenges. Yes. But I'm pretty happy. Like, I can't, I live a great life. I've got a fabulous family. I've got incredible support, friends, business and personal, and those cross over so much because, one of the things I love to teach for my branding is creating relationships and connections. And I love to be able to do that with people. And, I feel like I smile probably 90% of the time now, even when I'm sleeping.
Oh my gosh. I know I always Dean's my husband, who always makes fun of me about how I sometimes will say certain things in my dream and sometimes say something in Chinese in my dream and laugh and just laugh. I love this, Jen. I think for a lot of the listeners, your story, your energy is just so contagious. And I am just so glad that you have created this podcast and have started this movement. I have two final questions for you.
Actually, I feel like now I look back at my life and I feel that all points have led to here.
Yeah.
All roads have led to where I am now, which is such a good feeling.
Yes. It's like a full circle moment, literally. Even with how we started with the podcast episode here to where you are now, I love that. I love that. So I have two final questions for you. Yes. They're pretty rapid fire. Okay. But I guess, I had the pleasure of meeting your beautiful daughter, Chelsea, over the weekend recently. Yes. She's incredible. Yes. But I'm curious, I guess, for those who are listening who, maybe in their 20s or even 30s who are listening, Uh, if you were to have a conversation with your 20, 30-year-old self today, what would you say to her?
Just be who you were meant to be in the first place. Truly, don't let anyone dull your sparkle. Go forth and do what you want to do with your life. Like I use Chelsea as an example again, but Chelsea studied 4 years of chiropractic and then said, Mum, I don't think I want to do this. And I'm like, well, one, mama knows best. I'm like, I never really thought it was for you anyway. But two, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. She said, but Mum, I've wasted time. I said, no, you have not. You have not wasted time. You've spent 4 years learning about something. You now know it's not for you. If you'd have gone on, done your master's and spent 5 years working, that would have been a waste. Now, she sent me, God bless her, she sent me a photo today. I sent it to you, all in her scrubs, going into surgery. She's studying OT, but she is working placement at a hand hospital at the moment. So she was observing surgery. And I just got like goosebumps, and she sent me the photo. I'm like, my girl. And she's doing what she loves. And that makes me just so happy. And I think, you know what, if I've ever done anything good in my life, it's Chelsea. She's an amazing human and I'm so blessed. So that's what I would say to the younger ones.
What a special message. Love.
Yeah, love. For the younger ones, if people are trying to talk you into doing something that you don't feel is right, for your career, for your relationship, or even about who you are, listen inside yourself and don't let others influence you. Life is short. Be who you're meant to be.
Yes.
Not who you think you should be.
100%. It's almost like dial down the external noise so you can really hear that internal noise within.
Exactly. And don't dull yourself down because of the external.
Yep. Love. Okay, final question for you, Jen. Let's just imagine we're having a conversation with 80-year-old Jen right now. What would you think she would be saying to you?
She would be saying, we've lived our best life. We've done the things, we've helped change how women think about midlife. That's something I'm so obsessed with is, realizing as I've hit midlife that it's an amazing place to be. And we're privileged to be here. We are so lucky. And like, you're not dead yet. Like, there's so much life to live. And at 80, I hope I'm still like my friends, Diane Clem, going on holidays, going on cruises. Like our friend Jeff, who was there on Friday night as well. Jeff is 80. He's an accountant. He still goes to work every day because he bloody loves what he does.
Freaking love that.
I'm going to have pink hair. I'm still going to be wearing all the colors. And I think if my 80-year self could look back and speak to me now, she would say, Jen, you keep doing this because it's going to be important for others.
Yes. Whoa. Mic drop. Holy smokes, Jen. Thank you for sharing your story with me, with everyone who is tuning in right now. I mean, I feel like there's so many things, so many more things we could potentially talk about in here. I could talk to you for ages.
Well, I was going to say, we could just keep talking for another 2 hours because that's what we do, but...
Maybe that can be another part 2.
Yeah, maybe.
But I have absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being your message.
Thank you for coming on here with me.
Guys.
This was Anita's idea, people. She's like, I think I'd like to interview you. I'm like, okay, sure. So
heck yeah, I jumped at this opportunity. There's nothing that excites me more than to be able to, because I think we look online and we're like, wow, like you see, I guess, the highlight reel and we want the real, right? And I love everything that you've shared today. I think so many beautiful wisdom gems that you've shared. You guys, if you're tuning in right now, listening in, do us a favor. And if you find this episode, the podcast, the episode, something that you really resonated with, share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones. This episode, this podcast, this movement that Jen is creating, and I know you didn't tell me to say this, but it's like, it gives me goosebumps just to see how she completely lights up. This is, I just know, Jen, like, this is just the start of something incredible. So this is something that you resonate with and you feel like someone else should be tuning in. Please do share this episode. Tag Jen, if you're listening in right now. Feel free to tag me in it as well if you want. But make sure you share, spread the love, because this is how we can really ignite this movement for Jen. All right.
And I just want to
thank
say,
you.
Isn't it amazing what comes from a conversation on a bus in Bali?
Oh, yeah. Hey.
Yep. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being here for me. Thank you for interviewing me. And just so you all know, people, I had no idea what she was asking me. I just ran with all
no idea. It's fun.
But thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm so glad you're in my world. And thank you. And yes, please like and share and subscribe, people. I'd love you to come on this journey, because I can guarantee one thing: it is not going to be boring. Wait. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Woo-hoo! Hey ladies, I created this podcast because I know we need more of it to help us bring back our pink and live our best lives. But guess what? We can't do this alone. So if you loved this episode, let's spread the word. Share it on your socials, send it to a friend, and don't forget to write us a review. By doing this, you become part of the movement to bring back your pink and inspire others to do the same. I'm incredibly grateful to have you in my world as we live life in full color and become our authentic selves. Together, we're unstoppable. Let's keep rocking and bringing back the pink.